Hey YouTube, Ed here with Jack of All Trades, and welcome back to another video. So another project today. We are going to change oil on the Tracker 600 ATV. So I'm going to take you through the whole process step by step, and without further ado, let's go ahead and get this thing started. So before we get going on this project, I would just ask you that if you're liking this channel and you're liking this kind of content, please make sure you hit that like and subscribe button down below. It's free to you. It doesn't cost you guys anything, but it really does help out the channel, and we can keep bringing you videos just like this. With that, let's go ahead and get on with this project. So yes, we're going to change oil on the 600 tracker. So what we need is we need a filter, and we need 3-quart bottles of oil. The 600 Tracker Off-Road ATV takes actually 2.5 quarts of oil. Something that has annoyed me with every manufacturer is why they just couldn't give us a nice round number of oil capacity, but that's what they give us, 2.5 quarts of oil. And then we're going to need the filter as well. So anytime I'm changing oil on a product like this, I always use the manufacturer's recommended oil. Now, yes, I know you can get away with other oil, and yes, I know you can use other oil, but this machine is still under warranty, and as long as I'm using the manufacturer's oil, they have no room to tell me that I screwed something up when I changed oil and said I didn't use, and possibly say I didn't use an oil that was recommended for this machine, and I can say, hello, I used nothing but your oil. I'm also very anal retentive in that I also save all of my receipts so that it can be proven that I bought my oil from the dealership, and there's no way that they can mess around with the warranty. You're also going to need an oil filter, and once again, I use the filters from the dealership. Yes, you can probably go get a less expensive one from an auto parts store or a farm supply store, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to use the manufacturer's filter. Now, the part number on this filter is 0812-135, 0812-135, and it came right from the Tracker dealership. It doesn't say Tracker on it anywhere, but it is Tracker's oil filter because it did come from the dealership. So with that, let's go ahead and get this project started. All right, so the first thing that's got to happen is the seat's got to come off. Then we need to remove the side panels. Now, this side panel over here is the side panel with the fuel tank. You have to remove the fuel cap to get that side panel off. And then it's just a matter of pulling off the side panels. Now, you really wouldn't necessarily need to take this side panel off. You could get away without it, but I like to take it off just because it gives me a little bit of extra light and a little more room for me to see what I'm doing. And we can remove this side panel as well. Okay, now that the side panels are removed, you can see here is our oil filter. All right, so basically you're going to need 3 tools to get this job done. You're going to need a 13mm wrench, an ice cream pail, an empty ice cream pail, or something to catch your oil in. I always use an ice cream pail because they're free, and I eat a lot of ice cream, and an oil filter wrench. Now what I usually do is I usually take my 13mm wrench and I just crack open the oil drain. Now you can see here there's a hole or a slot for the oil to drain out of. A little tip here, if you go ahead and just remove this plug, the oil is actually going to overshoot and it's going to end up on your skid frame. So just go in here and loosen it up really slowly, and rather than take it out, use the plug to kind of block the flow of the oil to slow it down so it doesn't make quite such a mess, and catch it right into the bucket. So I'm just kind of pulling the plug about halfway out to slow the flow of the oil down. Otherwise, if you just go ahead and just remove this plug directly, it's going to overshoot the hole. It's going to end up all over the inside of the skid plate, and it's just going to make a horrendous mess. And once you've got it to the point where most of the oil is out, you can go ahead and remove the plug, and it will just drain in there nice and easy. So now as the oil is draining out of the drain plug, you always want to take your oil drain plug itself, take a clean paper towel and wipe it off. Now this plug has got a magnet on the end of it, and that magnet will actually collect metal shavings. So you're going to want to inspect whatever is accumulated on that magnet. Now I already did that, and you can see I've got a little bit of metal shaving right here, but that's pretty normal. This machine's only got 300 hours on it. It's not abnormal wear, and it's not big chunks. It's just really fine little particles, and I'm sure that's still just left over from the break-in process. So make sure you go ahead and clean your drain plug off and inspect the metal residue that's left on your magnet. All right, so now it's time to remove the oil filter. And once again, this is going to make a bit of a mess. There's really nothing for it. There's nothing much you can do about it. The oil filter is going to drip out and leak oil. So I always take some paper towels, stick them underneath the oil filter, kind of work them back in there, and get it all the way far back into the block, or close to the block as I possibly can. And then I've already gone ahead and loosened up this filter. So then you just go ahead and spin the filter off. Try really hard to keep it as level as possible. There is going to be some leakage, so be prepared for that. Which is exactly why I'm putting the paper towels down here. And my oil filter is removed. Once you've got the oil filter off, make sure you didn't leave the O-ring on the surface here. Physically inspect the filter itself to verify that the O-ring is still intact and it's still on the filter. You don't want to leave any old oil filter residue on the engine. You want to make sure it's very nice and clean. All right, and while the oil is continuing to drain, we can install our new oil filter. Now you always want to take and you want to put a little bit of oil on your finger and go ahead and lube up that oil filter O-ring before you go ahead and screw it on. That way when you tighten it down, you're assured that the O-ring itself is not going to bind and kink up and thusly cause a leak. And go ahead and spin it on. Now I'm not a big proponent of using an oil filter wrench to tighten oil filters. We don't need to Hulk Hogan these things on here. Typically, just good, strong, firm hand pressure until you can turn it no more with just your hand is usually enough. Now, some people I'm sure out there will disagree with me, and that's fine. Everybody's allowed to do that. But I personally don't think you really need to super torque Hulk Hogan that oil filter on. I just like to make sure it's good and tight, as strong as I can get it with my hand. And that's all I've ever done. Cars, trucks, everything. Okay, now that the dripping is pretty much slowed to a very slow drip, I'm going to go ahead and reinstall the oil drain plug. Take my 13mm wrench and go ahead and snug it down. Give it a pretty good torque. And the oil drain plug is reinstalled. All right, on top of the engine, right here is your oil filler. And Tracker was nice enough to give you a nice big oil filler to dump your oil into, so we shouldn't really need much in the way of a funnel to go ahead and fill this oil. Now, like I said, as per the owner's manual, this machine takes 2 1/2 quarts of oil. I would still recommend the use of a funnel just to make the mess just a little bit less. And go ahead and dump your oil in here. We can fully dump the first 2 quarts, and then I usually dump the last 1/2 quart and then see where we're at on the dipstick. Now that we've got our 2 1/2 quarts of oil in there, I go ahead and I replace the cap. And then what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to start the engine, fill the oil filter, and then check our fluid level. Just let it run for a minute or two. Don't rev the engine or anything like that. Just allow the oil to circulate inside the oil filter and make sure that it gets fully lubricated. Then once you've run it for a little while, go ahead and shut it down, and now we'll check the oil level. All right, so as per the instructions, it says to go ahead and remove the oil dipstick. Wipe it off clean with a clean towel, and then reinsert the oil level dipstick. And it does tell you you should screw it all the way down for checking purposes. So we screw it all the way down, screw it back out again, and check the level. So I am on the safe mark, but I am just a hair low, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add some more oil. All right, I've gone ahead and I've added more oil in, and I am now right at the top of my safe level on my oil dipstick. Okay, now that I've got the oil level and everything checked, there's two things you need to look for now. You need to look for, one, right around the oil filter. Make sure you don't have a leak around your gasket on your oil filter. And then two, check your drain plug to make sure you're not dripping around your drain plug. I have no drips. I have no leaks. Clean up my mess. And I have just completed my oil change. So there you go, complete oil change from start to finish on the Tracker 600 ATV by Tracker Outdoors. Now if you're liking this kind of content and you're liking this channel and you like what you see here, you'd be doing me a huge favor by hitting that like and subscribe button down below. Make sure you ring that notification bell so you get notified of upcoming videos. We're steadily approaching the 5,000 subscriber milestone, and we will be doing a 5,000 subscriber giveaway. So please make sure you don't miss out on that. With that, this is Ed from Jack of All Trades. As always, thank you for riding along. Thank you for watching, and we will see you on the next video.